So yesterday when I made my video, Gotham Knights delivered combat on par with Spider-Man. Some people thought it was an April Fool's joke. It's not. I'm really going in with the premise because I asked the question and I said in my video that a lot of the concerns that people have actually posited as to why they think Gotham Knights combat is bad due to specific mechanics missing also have same scenarios in other video games. I did a comparison with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I did one with the Arkham games and talked a little bit about how, those games required for you to be able to have that dance mechanic. Even talked about Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and we've talked about it extensively. And in seeing that, a lot of gamers have said that Gotham Knights combat is bad because of specific elements not there, I made these videos to show that these specific elements that people have claimed that makes Gotham Knights not satisfying or whatever are also absent in celebrated games. But at the end of the day, I think some people probably misunderstood all of these arguments and have brought up other arguments that are not necessarily pertaining to the conversation. Example, or one of them will be that the way that the knights fight is not necessarily canonical. I actually got this argument before and I thought, well, that's actually, in my mind, I thought that was a good counter. But somebody here in the comment section helped resolve that by claiming that some of the knights do fight in an evasive style from time to time, depending on the comics or depending on the scenario. And so that, I guess, probably somewhat resolves it, because if we're looking at canon at this point, I would have to say that, back in the Mystic Leap days, I thought we established that with the way canon was actually a big question in regard to things, that suspension of belief is okay for you to have when you're making a video game. And so that's the big deal, right? And so that's something that we kind of concluded. And so looking at all of this, it's very interesting, and it's, in my opinion, back down to where I actually boil down the issue to, which is actually for every video game, and that's for the most part preference. You see, I think when the conversation about Gotham Knights came out, a lot of people that didn't like the game, in a sense, probably had to, add something to the conversation, talking about potentially why they didn't like the game. And it has to kind of seem like, in a sense, when you're actually making a claim like that, you want to back up the claim. There's nothing wrong with that. But one thing that I've always advocated for is consistency, keeping the same energy across the board. Because one of my audience members even got upset with me and said, why are you complaining that people do not like a game that you don't like? And they even made fun of my YouTube views and said, his views confirmed that nobody wants to actually, watch these videos or something like that. And I have to actually say, man, the Laughing Z, if it's about YouTube views, don't worry, I have enough of them to be able to go around and, toot my horn. I mean, if you don't know, I have over 14 million views on YouTube. The Video Game Fight School channel is my second channel. I have a main channel that I've been covering other games on, and it's actually not even really that active. If I wanted to double that view count, I just have to continue playing The Division or other games that are very pertinent to that community and making videos on them. Some of you from the, other channel, you're here, so you can actually attest to this. I can play the YouTube game. I can make videos that are popular. I can make videos that actually draw in views. I know how this system works. I've been doing it for a while, but I'm not here to do that. In fact, if I will keep losing subs over this particular conversation, so be it, because I have to boil it down, because our DC Games community, we are sometimes the architects of our entire, situation that we're seeing right now. The developers and the publishers, they have their blame. You'll see that I've made videos to that regard. In fact, I've named names as to why we're seeing these games come out like this. There's no, in my opinion, I give everybody a good dish of their own medicine, and I serve it up. But sometimes here in our player bases, we also got to kind of like come back and look at ourselves and say, yo, man, what in the world is going on? Because I remember very clearly, if you read the reviews, if you actually go in and kind of talk about, say, some of the way the game got criticized, if you go and watch other reviewers, you will see that these concerns that I'm raising are similar concerns that other people kind of brought up in their own criticisms of the game. And the game does have its criticisms. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the game is perfect or whatever. No. I think, no, you can't make that argument, because that's not what I'm saying. If you actually are able to go back and look at my review, you'll see that I actually don't recommend the game on console at full price because the performance at the time that the game came out and even the frame rates affect your gameplay and affect your experience. And so these are things that are very, very important concerns. But a lot of the concerns about the game that when it first started were things like, oh, the combat is boring, the combat is slow, the combat doesn't feel this or that. And I've said to everyone that has actually made these complaints that, yeah, this is a matter of preference. You may think that, somebody else may think otherwise, because when we play video games, we usually have a different experience overall because our character personalities, the things that make us tick are very different. So some games will resonate while some others will not. There are other different aspects to Gotham Knights can be criticized for. You can criticize the open world. In fact, I said it's a functional open world. It doesn't impress me in any sense, but I'm looking at the game from a mechanic standpoint. This world looks like it was kit bashed. I can understand maybe as a development team, you do it just because, you're at a time when you're trying to get your game, published, and you think, man, what is the most efficient way to get a game after they've canceled 2 of my projects, right? Like, my Damian Wayne game got canceled. My Superman game got canceled. Whoa, what are we going to do? Let's go ahead and make a functional world that is representative of the world we want to make. Let's do the best that we can to get it going. But in terms of mechanics, Gotham Knights is a very solid game. And no one has still been able to argue with me on the mechanics standpoint. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm asking, I'm like, guys, what is the mechanic in Gotham Knights that makes the combat bad? And these same mechanics are in different established video games. The developers of this game, you could tell that they actually made a lot of choices copying, and taking notes from different video games that have been celebrated. This is how the gaming, ecosystems work. Even if you say, well, they should have probably gone and made their own original whatever, we can argue that case too, no problem. But again, right now that Elden Ring is successful and the Dark Souls franchise have caught the attention of people across the board, we're seeing more and more games want to take the Souls-like approach. I mean, even small games like Bleak Faith, Asterigos, which I don't know if many of you even know what that game is, or what's the name of this other game that just recently came out, Steel Rising, and so on and so forth. We've seen the propagation of Souls-likes starting to come into play. So if Marvel Spider-Man takes the approach of the evasive, fun, run-around acrobatic combat system, and we see that in Gotham Knights, I don't think it's a bad thing because they're trying to get, the secret sauce of these other games. But if you say from a canonical perspective, maybe the martial artist should have had a counter system and fought like Batman, I can say, sure, fine, but again, we're not going to stifle creativity because, again, I thought we kind of established that canon was going to be loose when we talked about the Mystic Leap thing. I think most of us agreed on that front. So if you have any combat mechanic or combat system that you think makes Gotham Knights bad, I would love for you to share with me in the comment section. I mean, you're talking to a wannabe developer here. So that's probably where, this whole conversation is coming from on my end. Because, the development side of me makes me see it differently because I'm looking at the code, or in my mind anyways, trying to figure out like how all this was put together, looking at Spider-Man's own possible code base as well. And I'm looking and saying, from, a raw data perspective, even to fleshing everything out and animations and how things tick, these 2 games have combat systems that are basically on par that work for them. I mean, it's the conclusion that I've drawn. If you feel otherwise, other than I just don't like it, I mean, then let me know. And if you don't like it, also let me know. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying you have to like it. But again, make sure you're prefacing it with, oh, it's just because I don't like it. And I think we'll be able to, come to that conclusion and we'll be fine. If somebody was making a big fuss as to why I was, talking about other people's opinions and so on and so forth. I have no problem with your opinion. You can have your opinion. That's fine. It's your opinion. I mean, everyone's got theirs. But when we give our opinions, or in a sense, when we try to make sure that, everyone thinks it's objective in a sense that, this is objectively bad, because I've seen those comments too. I mean, somebody was making fun of me talking about these comments like they don't watch my channel. Like, this is the channel for you to be able to see pretty much as much criticism as you want about Gotham Knights, and you can go on IGN videos or go on big reviewers videos that gathered millions of views when the game came out. You'll see that I'm responding to pretty much the general concerns from other people in our community. Now, I leave the floor open. It wasn't an April Fool's joke. Tell me if you know from a technical perspective how you think Marvel Spider-Man's combat is not on par with Gotham Knights, especially if you have some technical knowledge or whatnot. I'm here listening. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.